So what I mean when I say that people come back to test us is not that the universe is trying to like test you and like see if you're worthy of this person. What I mean is like every dynamic, every connection, every relationship has a signature. And within you, especially, that connection, that relationship brings up certain emotions. And I feel like if you're watching this video, most likely you're in like you're learning about, attachment theory, like attachment styles. You're learning about the psychology of connection, most likely like manifesting your specific person, like the whole shebang, right? Like the whole community. And I think sort of the pattern of things is like we'll meet a certain person, you met somebody that was important to you, and for whatever reason, that connection brought up certain things within yourself and therefore most likely led to a separation of some sort. They left, the dynamic didn't work out, whatever it was. And so now there's this separation, but there's also this drive, this desire for this reconciliation, to come back in contact with this person. And in this separation, a lot of times that's where there is space for this healing, right? And so most likely if you're watching this, you're on this journey, you know what I mean? You probably have a specific person in mind, is my guess. And most likely you're in separation or you're experiencing some challenges and you are trying to figure out what within yourself is leading to this specific outcome in this dynamic, in this relationship. You're doing the healing, right? And the goal is to have a good dynamic with this person. And I think so often, like in the separation, you'll go through all of this healing. And, obviously the goal is to reconnect with this person. That's sort of the starting point. But it's, so much comes from that. And that's kind of a really beautiful thing. Like you're sort of forced into this journey of self-discovery because you potentially like self-sacrifice because you really cared for a person. And so now there's sort of this coming back to yourself, doing the self-reflection, learning about self-love, learning about boundaries, learning about energetics, learning about connection, dynamics, all of it. And I think what can happen is like you'll go through this period of deep healing and then your person will come back, and ultimately that's the goal, but that's also the biggest challenge because that's the thing that led to this entire journey. And so not that this person's bad, not that you can't be with this person, and not that the dynamic can't shift, but it's sort of that quote, like you can't heal in the same environment that made you sick. And I don't fully believe that because I think things can always shift, but if there's a lot of history there, a lot of times that same dynamic can trigger again the things that led you into this journey to begin with. So that's why I say it's a test, because it's like you're now faced to respond differently to the exact thing that triggered you into this whole journey. Like that is the true test, and sometimes this can happen repeatedly, right? Like you've got that person that for whatever reason really tests your boundaries, really gets under your skin. You probably love this person, and I think that's the challenging part, because love comes with self-sacrifice. It shouldn't. And I think that's what a lot of us are like learning, is how to set boundaries and how to love people without fully merging into them, right? Like that's the real challenge. But if you truly love a person, that's a slippery slope, right? And so I think that's kind of where the test comes in, is it's like, yeah, you've done all this self-love and like this healing work and all this energetic work, but that's when you and this person were in separation. What happens when they come back in? What happens when they're still bringing the same behaviors to the table? How are you going to respond this time? And it's like, even if you externally respond differently, what matters is internally, because this person comes back in, you know what I mean? Maybe they're a brand new person. Most likely not. Most likely they're kind of showing up similar to how they were showing up before. And you now get the choice to show up as the version of yourself before this whole journey or the version of yourself after this journey. And those are two very different responses. And it's one of those things that's easier said than done. And I think even if you respond externally in a certain way, like, this is my line, these are my boundaries, this is who I am now, how are you feeling internally? Are those same wounds getting triggered? They most likely are, but like, what are you doing about that, And so I think that's kind of the question. And in my experience, probably the most challenging part about this whole journey entirely is like that reemergence, you know, because it's like, it's sort of like an addict having a relapse. Like, are you going, like, now this thing that you said you've healed from is going to come back in, and you get a chance to face this thing again. How are you going to respond to it? You know, are you the same person that you were before? Are you going to slip back into that? And sometimes it can be sort of a repeated process of you getting exposed to it again. Maybe you slip, you know what I mean? Maybe you kind of fall back into some unworthiness. Maybe you whatever like you're struggling with, maybe you revert back to sort of some of those tendencies you kind of worked through before. And you kind of have to cycle back through things and then go back to the drawing board, pull your energy back, like do some deeper reflection. And I think that that's maybe not talked about enough. Like there's a lot of like sexiness, I think, for like the original, maybe not. I think there's a lot of energy when you come into this community, because it's like there was probably that initial separation. It was probably really triggering and really emotional. Maybe there was some sort of heartbreak. And so there's all this energy to like make changes. But like this process can go on for a long, long period of time, sometimes with the same person repeatedly. And it's just like, and that's the process of healing, is like sometimes you feel like you've healed through something and you're going to get faced with it again. And you might not be as far along as you thought, you know? But I kind of just want to remind you, like, that's okay. And that is part of the process. And it also, it might mean that you're not meant to be with this person. And sometimes I think people experience that, like, through their healing journey. They're like, oh, I'm actually not attracted to the same things that I was. And it's not something I'm interested in anymore, you know? And I think that's something that can happen quite a lot, and it can kind of be scary too, because you might lose this person just by your own drive, almost, just because you've changed, you know. But there might be something, you know, if this is a true, genuine, authentic connection, maybe it's just a case where, for whatever reason, you know, either your insecurities are sabotaging the connection, or they can't meet you at the place that, you know, you've kind of raised your standards to. There's all sorts of different ways it can play out. And I don't think there's a set rule that like, oh, you can be together or just like walk away and you can never, like, don't even put up with that. It's a dance, right? And it's going to be so unique to you and your connection. But the end all be all goal is not necessarily for them to come back. And I know that's sort of adverse to the advice. That's probably why you got into this work to begin with, is to try to get them back. And that's fine. That can be the incentive. But once, like, as you keep going through this process, you start realizing that that isn't the goal, you know? And the more that you realize it isn't the goal, the more they actually start to come back, you know? And so I guess what I'm getting at is, like, this is always going to be an ongoing journey. And this is always going to be an ongoing dance, whether this is someone that stays in your life or doesn't, whether this is someone that's in and out of your life. Those wounds are going to keep getting triggered, but every time it's going to get easier and easier. So don't beat yourself up. Sometimes you have to like circle back to things you thought you were past. Sometimes you think you're a new person, and then a situation comes up and you get triggered, and you kind of fall into some of the same patterns that you were in before. And that's okay, because you're bringing a new level of awareness to it. It's like every time you go through it, you get better and better, and you say, okay, I know what I'm dealing with now. I understand what's happening. And give yourself compassion in going through that process, and set boundaries, yes, but have compassion for the other person too. And I think, I think really it's just like, remember the true reason for this process. Even if you were incentivized to start to bring this person back, the true goal of this process is to teach yourself and to learn about yourself and to bring yourself back to yourself in wholeness, so that you can actually come to this connection with fulfillment and, you know, raise your standards and expect people, not in like an arrogant way, but actually give people a chance to meet you where you're at. And if they can't, you know, you aren't going to fall apart because of that. It's sad when someone you love can't meet you, you know, in this place that you're at, but you've done the work. Like, you know that you're going to be okay. And that ultimately is the goal, is that you know, we're not really scared of people abandoning us. We're scared of us abandoning ourselves in the name of others. And especially so if we do all that and they don't choose us. That's what we're scared of, because, and that's what happens is like when you lack boundaries, a lot of times you'll give up your whole entire identity, your whole entire self for a person, and then they won't reciprocate. And then not only do you not have that person, but you don't have yourself now. You lack self-respect. And so it's like, if you are looking for true connection, like what's truly aligned to you is going to happen when you align with yourself. So that's the true goal of this journey. And I know you really wanted to be that person, and it might be, and it might not. But the point is that you can't, it's in some sense, it's not really up to you, because real connection means that you don't have to contort yourself. It means that you are in connection with yourself, and these people are naturally resonating with you. They're naturally connecting with you. If you're having to do any sort of contorting or backbends or like weird acrobats to try to get this to work, something's off, you know? And it's not to say that this connection will never happen, because actually sometimes it will, but it will only come into alignment when you're in alignment. And so that is the ultimate goal. And if that means they leave, they leave. And if not, then they'll come closer, and it's going to help bring that connection into alignment. So this is just a reminder that you're doing great, and sometimes things will have to come up repeatedly in order for you to heal from it. But the ultimate goal is that you keep coming back to yourself, you keep holding, you know, space for these lessons you're going through, and yeah, just be kind with yourself, be cool with yourself. It's all going to work out. And yeah, I love you. I'll see you next time.